over 2 decades, Jon Heinz's life has been basketball. Since 2007, he has commanded the Liberty Boys basketball sidelines. As he closes in on legendary head coach Jerry Miller's record of 260 wins, Heinz is calling the 2024-2025 season his last. On this episode of the Press Talk Sports Live, we talk to Liberty's longtime basketball coach and current athletic director about stepping down, how he stepped up originally, and what's next. I'm Jeff Weisinger, and we'll be joined by Juan Cebreiros. And this is the Press Talk Sports Live, presented by the Brentwood Press.
So, this is your last year. You said this is your last year. You called it the worst kept secret around town. Just what are some things that kind of played into this decision?
I think the biggest thing is, this is my 26 years straight coaching. You know, I've never taken a break. And I look back on things, honestly, I'll be turning 48 this year during the season. I started as an athlete at age 5. From age 5 to right now 47, I've taken 1 year off sports. So I played 3 years of college sports. I played basketball and baseball in college. Took 1 year off, just kind of thinking where I'm going to go to next. I was going to teach. I really wanted to get into coaching. And, I became friends with one of the assistant coaches at Humboldt State. Of course, now it's Cal Poly Humboldt. It's been so long. But I was in a coaching theory class with him, and he knew my passion for basketball and this and that. And after that year of not being an athlete or starting my coaching career, they had me come in and start working on the basketball camps at Humboldt State. They have all the overnight camps, stuff like that. And at the end of the summer, I get this phone call from the head coach. He's like, "Hey, can you meet with me in my office?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." Like, I had no idea what this would be about. And he called me in the office to ask me if I wanted to be part of the coaching staff. And that was in the 99-2000 season. And I never expected to go on this long run, without a break. So I think last year, obviously that was kind of what my thinking was going to be last year, was going to be my last year. And it's tough because I felt like I kind of built this program from scratch. The year before I got here, they were 2-24, and it was a rough situation to come into. And it's hard to build something up to kind of walk away. But I always told myself when I walked away, I wanted to be in a better situation than I took it over. And really, when I walked away, I want to see it to keep getting better and better and better. So I do feel good in a situation where I feel like when I leave this place, it's not going to just fall apart.
What was the moment, I guess, the moment of clarity? Maybe it was like, okay, not maybe because I know you mentioned it last year could have been the last year you coached, but going into this season, in between that time, maybe what was that one moment where you were like, okay, I'm kind of my time is done.
Well, I think the biggest thing is when I took over as athletic director. So taking over as the athletic director, I felt like I did a great job of the organization or leading the basketball program as far as like all the administrative stuff. And I felt I could bring that to the whole school. Like I could take what I did with the basketball program and not just like the coaching aspect of it. It's just the how to manage games and run events and fundraise and do all these little things. And so I felt like there was a need for that for the whole school. And so once I stepped in that job, it was way beyond I could ever imagine. Most athletic directors are full time in the Bay Area, and trying to teach, be a head coach, and be an administrator was really eye opening. And I felt at times, especially early in last season, that I wasn't giving both jobs their full, enough energy. There'd be times where I get called out of practice for 15 minutes to deal with athletic director stuff. And great thing, I had a coaching staff Mike Gregory had been with me for 8 years. So, I could walk away from practice for a few minutes and know that everything's going to be handled the way I want it done. And it's really tough these days and age. If you look at the e-ball schools, they have full-time ADs, and they're not allowed to coach over there.
Right, yeah.
And
it's
so,
one or the other.
yes, it's one or the other. So, you see it's really tough to do both, to wear both hats at the same time. And I don't want to short my basketball players or the other programs at school. So, my thinking was, okay, I'm going to finish up this year and end up being a really successful year for the kind of disappointing at the very end. But, 25-4 and making it to the Final Four in D1 was awesome. It was cool, right? Because, obviously my son was part of that team as well, and he was a senior and this and that. And so I saw that as kind of going to be the end of things. This past year, Coach Miller had passed away. I didn't really know him. He was the legendary coach here from like the 70s until the early 90s. And after he passed away, we had his family come in and we did a little ceremony and had a plaque for him and all that kind of stuff for what he did for the program. And I got to talk to his son a little bit, and I think what kind of leaned me to stay a little bit longer was, and well, the cool thing is Mike Miller, the son, he fully endorsed that. His dad finished up with 260 wins, and I was at 258, and he wanted to see me break that record, and he wanted to be here for that moment. So, I put in all this time. It'd be nice to break the record before I walk away. But to see the program just continue, hopefully winning after I'm gone as well, though.
So pretty much you want to make sure this program's out of reach for everybody else at this point.
Yeah. Hey, I got some bets on the line with other ADs in the league right now and stuff like that, and I'm not going to ever shy away from competition. So,
well, with that said, you mentioned earlier leaving this program in a better place than how you found it. You found this program at 2-24, you said, something like that.
Yeah, they were 2-24,
and then now this is like one. This really is like one of the top programs, definitely the top program in the Beaver, let alone one of the top in the Bay Area, pending who you ask. But your thoughts about what the state of the program now, as this is, as we know right now, your last year.
I think one of the biggest things is, when I came in the 2007-2008 season, we weren't really invited to do anything. Right. Like you had to beg teams to play you and this and that. I think I showed you like the NorCal tip-off this year, right? So the very first showcase of the year, you're looking at some of the best teams in Northern California.
I think the Salesian boys and girls team is going to be there.
Here's our game scope. So this is the NorCal Ultimate Showcase. It's an all-boys one-day event where colleges come in to watch. You look at the 10:30 game, you got Palma versus San Leandro. The 12 o'clock game, Branson versus Menlo Atherton. 1:30, Bellarmine versus Fremont. 3 o'clock, Clovis West versus Clayton Valley. 4:30, Moreau Catholic versus Doherty Valley. 6 o'clock, Modesto Christian versus Salesian. The 7:30 game, Bandon versus Liberty. When I got here in 2007, that would be unthinkable.
Yeah.
That we could be playing kind of that final game over. Forgive me if I'm wrong, but Salesian and Modesto Christian just played the last 2 years with the NorCal representatives in the Open Division.
Yeah.
And we're playing. So
you guys also kind of main eventing this as the last game of the night. So I mean.
Yeah, and so that's what's crazy. Like I'm proud of looking back that we've built this program to the point where not only invited to these showcases, but now we're some of the yes. Last year in the Simply Basketball Showcase at Sheldon, we're that second last. Sheldon's always going to play last, right? But we were that second to last game, and stuff. So it's cool to now be invited to these events, and we've competed pretty well at a lot of them. So,
talk about the period of you coaching your son. I mean, you coached here for years before he got here. What was that like coaching him on varsity? He was var for 4 years, right?
Yeah, well, no. So here's the crazy thing. So I took over the program. My son was 1 year old, and for the people that have been around Brentwood for a long time, really follow the Brentwood sports scene. My first year coaching here, Kyle Quinn was our starting center. Kyle Quinn was also our left tackle on the football team. Was recruited, played center at University of Arizona for football, and Kyle was massive, right? Not for the college level when he was playing offense, or being a lineman, but the kid was 6'4", 275, and before the game started, you would see a group of five starters would be shooting while the guys are stretching, and you see them flip. Well, my son would go out there and sit by Kyle, so my son would be this little tiny kid trying to emulate Kyle out there, So to kind of see the progression, I mean, And not only with my job, my wife being the athletic trainer here, my kids literally grew up on the sidelines.
Right.
You know, I think for my first 6 years working at Liberty, I had a kid in a backpack, like on the sidelines, you know, because then my daughter was born, you know, and stuff.
We'll get any pictures.
And we do have some stuff around. And so it's really been a full circle type thing because seeing Josh grow up, I mean, he started playing like baseball and all these sports at 3 years old. He was playing baseball and soccer, then basketball, I think at age 4 or something. To see him go through this process of, I helped out coaching a little bit with him growing up. Junior high, I really tried to just stay back. And people would think that I'd be the guy in the stands that would be making all the, I wouldn't say a word, you know, just observe and kind of work with him on the side. But an interesting thing is when he played a lot of AAU growing up, he played for Coach Rich, you know?
Yeah. Oh, okay.
And so when I had a JV job come available, I'm not the kind of guy that just throws an ad out like, hey, we're looking for I'm going to go try to seek out the best coaches I can find.
Right.
And so I brought Rich in and really had to sit down with him, you know, about opportunities that could be here at our school and stuff like that. And we convinced him to jump on. Well, the crazy thing is my son's freshman year was COVID year. Okay. So here we are now. We have basketball in April, May, but if you remember, there was no freshman sports that year.
Yeah.
Right.
We had
Right.
JV and we had varsity.
And it was, 10 games, I think?
We played 14 games. Some people just played a league schedule. We did play 4 non-league games that
Okay.
year. And they got me. We were 11-3 that year. I could have got more wins that year, but they cut me short. But, you know, so Josh was in a tough situation. So what we decided to, I think we ended up keeping 15, which is not, you know, normally keep about 12, 13 guys. We became 15 because you have no freshman program. We got to build these guys. And so I think we kept 8, if I can remember right, we kept 8 sophomores and 7 freshmen. And so that first year was really tough to get playing time. Right. You know, a lot of times you had to sit the bench. And then his sophomore year, he was a starting point guard, you know, and he had a really successful year and this and that. And then we make that run. That was also the year we had we lost 3 league games that year because remember Deer Valley? I think it was Deer Valley had a couple COVID cases, and this is the year after COVID.
This is
we're still testing and doing things, and so what we ended up doing was we cut league from 10 games to 5. We played everyone once, and that seeded out for a league tournament. So what happened was we went 5-0 in the when we played everyone once. We got a bye in the first round of the tournament, right? So the first top 2 seeds got byes, and then we win those 2 tournament games before playoffs. And Josh was one of our call-ups. We called up 3 kids. Jamar Searcy being one of those kids that was a call-up. You know, people don't remember that. But he was a call-up for varsity that sophomore year for playoffs. Got to play a little bit, and then junior year, we were pretty stacked, you know, and we were loaded at guards, and not only that, loaded with guards that were 3-year varsity players. So junior year was tough. He didn't get a lot of playing time, you know, and here it is, like your coach is a kid, and you know, it's and not getting that kind of playing time.
But so. in a way, you kind of defeated the stigma, so to say, oh well, coach's kid's gonna start, right? Because you mentioned he had guards in front of him that were 3-year starters that, you know,
multiple first team all leaguers
that were legit. And it's not to knock Josh, but I mean, you all play. From what I've known of you, the time I've been here, like you played your best talent night in, night out, right?
Yeah.
How hard? Two-parter. We just made it into a 3-parter, but 2-parter. How hard was that was it hard to like not start? It's not and to kind of take that opportunity away from him, so to say. But at the same time, well, with that said, overall, what was it like? Your time here and your time going to us, having your wife here, having your son here, kind of the overall experience of like doing all this with your family behind you.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's probably more tough on my wife than anybody, you know, like, this is tough. I mean, it's tough as a parent when you see your kid working really hard and they're not getting that playing time and stuff. I think as a coach, coaching your kid, it goes one of 2 ways, right? You either like give them everything, and we've seen that happen so many times, right? Where kids were getting opportunities that they didn't really deserve. And I see the comments that are made and stuff out there, you know, and I've seen things in the past. And then you have coaches that maybe are too hard on their kids, you know. I just felt that with the situation we were in and how we had been winning, like you had to earn anything, and I had to put that stigma away, right? Like if you're gonna play in a program, you have to earn everything you get, right. Especially nowadays with social media and stuff like that. If I'm giving my kid way more opportunities and he didn't deserve it over other kids, you know how things blow up nowadays and stuff.
Very aware.
You know, so yeah, I mean, it was a tough situation, but it was cool this last year, him being in the rotation and getting to start some games and really could count on him. The one thing that was great about coaching Josh was, you know, he's going to give you all the effort. He worked really hard in practice, but he knew the system. You know, where his IQ made up for maybe some of his lack of athleticism or whatever. But he could get after it on defense, but he was a smart player, you know. He was a good teammate, you know, so.
What was kind of like the turning, so you mentioned this program was really rough when you started it out, and it was like that for the first few years. What was kind of the turning point where it's like, okay, we're kind of building something here? Yeah. What was kind of the point of where things took a turn?
Man, I'll tell you, starting off, when I first got this job, we were starting up, I didn't even get to coach summer ball, so I started our open gyms, you know, in that fall of 2007, and there just wasn't that many young kids showing up. And it's kind of like, well, where's all these young kids at? So I was new to the area, so I get a hold of the Excelsior coach at the time, Edna Hill coach at the time, be like, can I get your rosters from last year so I can find these kids? And the comments were to me like, oh, coach, well, none of these kids go to Liberty, they all go to Heritage. It's like, well, what are we talking about? Like our kids. And so that very first year I coached here, I mean, we literally had kids starting on our freshman team that didn't even make their 8th grade team. Like that was the state of the program. We went 9-17 in my first year, and I remember my very first game we're playing Granada, and we're winning the whole game, and they come back and then they beat us at the end, and I'm fuming that we lost because I've been around programs where we won.
Right, you're not used to that.
And I'm heated, and we're walking. We had another team room at the time, and the kids. I had a couple of seniors walking in front of me, and they were almost like giddy walking along, like, and I could hear them saying like, "I can't believe we almost won that game." And it was such a different mentality for me, right? Like they just had not won. So to win 9 games after you had just won 2 games, and I had a lot of seniors that were playing JV as junior. They weren't even good enough to make the varsity team. And so it was just a different, it was a tough situation to come into. So the biggest thing was just like, how can I keep my 8th graders now that live in my boundaries coming to Liberty?
Right.
Like, what can I do to just get these kids, you know, to show that we're really serious about basketball now? So anyways, basically that next year, my freshman class was all the kids that live in our boundaries that were supposed to go here finally went here. When they were seniors, we won 22 games.
This was 2011, right?
So this would be the 11-12 season. Right. You know what I'm saying? So we went from, and people forget too, this is before open. We were the 5 seed in playoffs. Right. So my first 4 years was just building for that 5th year. I mean, it was literally just getting kids that lived in your school, like in your boundaries, to just come to your school. And ever since then, we've missed the playoffs 1 time.
What was the response from Heritage when you started taking it?
I don't know if we ever really got many of it. You know,
I'm curious about that because, like, you know, actually,
hey, that's our inflow of talent.
Kind of knowing Heritage as I've come to know Heritage in the last year, if they lose their prospective talent here, in a way, it's kind of personal. Granted, the rivalry and because the locale, right? Yeah. So I'm kind of curious, like, what that response is. You're taking kids that they were probably expecting to get, and now they're going, instead, if I'm on Heritage, instead of that talent coming here and building our program, they're going to Liberty. You know, I'm kind of curious if there was any response.
Yeah, so you know what? Like, I think there's obviously a big shift in the league from the dominant time of Heritage and Freedom. The whole thing is, like, a lot of kids want to go to where the established program is.
Yeah.
Right. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not like you have to go out there and recruit. Kids see that there's a program that's really dominant, and not only that, their coaching staff is serious, and they've been there a long time. Right. I think the biggest thing you can see in the BVL, especially in the basketball side, is just a constant influx of new coaches. I mean, when you look at Mike as being my head assistant over these last few years, he's the second longest tenured coach boys or girls in the whole entire league.
Gee, I didn't know.
You know what I'm saying?
That.
Like, so I think that families are going to see that there's a program that's like
the stability.
Correct.
Right.
Correct. And even if you see me walking away, Rich has been with me now. This will be his 7th year with me. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Like, so there's still stability in the program, you know, and I think people recognize, you know, and then here's another thing too. If you look at the other BVL teams, who goes to the biggest events? You know, we not only that, we've been going to Palm Springs for the last so many years. This year, we decided to switch it up and go to Santa Barbara. You know, Sierra Canyon won it last year. And so it's like we're trying to go to these big events. You know, we're going to be at 3 showcases. You look at our non-league games. So out of our 16 non-league games, we have 3 showcases. We have our tournament, we have Clayton Valley's tournament, we have the Santa Barbara tournament. So that gives us 3 other games. Played Benicia, Division II championship last year. We play Western Ranch. That's always in state playoffs. They were 14-0 in league last year. We play Edison, was 14-0 in league last year. So, you know, we're playing a tough schedule, you know. So if you want to go to a school that's going to play the best teams, there's one kind of place to look at.
If pretty much you kind of built it now to, if you want to go to a school that's gonna help you go to that next level and get you that kind of exposure, and it's in a way to market it. So to say.
And I think the cool thing is too, if you even just look at last year's roster, we had 7 seniors, 7 non-seniors. Out of those 7 seniors last year, we'll find out by the end of the week, but it looks like 5 of those seniors will be playing college basketball this year. Mm-hmm. So you're talking about 5 of your 7 seniors. We're talking about non-starters even making college rosters. So that's pretty big. So.
You mentioned Rich behind you. Is he going to be taking over for you? Is that
so we've hired him as a co-head coach for this year.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's
with the idea of him.
Yeah. No, the whole plan is that after the season it'll be fully his program and stuff. Right. So yeah, I think it'll be hopefully a good transition. It's tough because like we're used to running our own teams, and so it's gonna be different. I'm not gonna lie, it's gonna be different this year. Right. This summer I try to step back a lot and let him kind of lead the way.
What was that like for you?
Tough, like again, people know I'm an only child as well. I'm used to having things going.
I know the feeling.
and if you guys weren't here, but when I first started coaching here, like I really didn't have assistants. I did everything, and that's the way I kind of was as I matured and got older. I mean, the crazy thing to think about, I actually took over this program when I was still in my 20s. I was 29 years old.
My sister was still going here.
You know what I'm saying? That's crazy thing. Like and as being a 49ers fan, I think back how many 49er coaches have gone. I've been
man.
In those 18 years. One thing I looked it up is like 7 or 8 different coaches.
That feeling when Liberty's had more stability than the Niners.
Yeah.
I would even start with the Browns, but.
No. You never want to start there.
Well, I want to ask you just because you've been so hands-on with the program, what's it like, if I may ask, what's it like this year kind of splitting responsibilities, or what's that going to be?
Yeah, I mean, things will shake out over the next month. Who's going to kind of cover what? I think as the season goes on, though, I'm going to probably take a bigger and bigger step back. You know,
gradually as you go.
Yeah, of course. So that's the hard thing is like I'm so used to always calling every offensive set, every defensive set, and all that kind of stuff. And like I said, but as my time went on here, as I got used to having certain assistants, first was Josh Elsesser, and then finally it was Bob Cleveland, and then Mike. Like, I give them more responsibility as they've been with me. At first, I'll be honest with the assistant coach, I don't really give them a lot of responsibilities. Right. They have to kind of earn that over time, and which they have, and I give them a big voice in the program. So it's going to be, like I said, it's just going to be something I've never done my whole career, and it's going to be a learning process, I think. So I don't know. We'll see how it goes.
I guess with that said, we talked a lot about the program and such. The fact that you've had consistent staff under you. Talk about what that's like, because you're handing it off to one of your assistants. You've had assistants that have been there for years. And in a way, while you've built a program, you've also kind of built a coaching tree under you. Talk about what that's been like for you.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of a measuring stick too as a coach, is to see how many people like get jobs, that have worked underneath you. I've had multiple coaches that worked with me that have gotten head varsity jobs and stuff. So that's really cool to see. it's really fun when you play them. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's very competitive. Then, you know, we had some good matches up when Bob took over at Antioch years ago. And he would try to set the band behind our bench and this and that. And so, you know, like, there's some banter back and forth, you know, and all that. But, you know, it's been good to see. And it's just built, like, a lot of strong relationships, you know. Like, even to this day, I think, like Friday night, I was at the Antioch game, and Bob and I are texting, or we'll call each other or whatever. So it's fun to see these coaches move on and, you know, but still keep those close relationships together, too.
The band playbook, is that something you plan on doing?
No, man, I'm not like that. No.
So after you had this program stable early in the 2010s, you guys started making continuous playoff runs. And you guys had an upset win over one of the best programs in this area, Dublin. What was that like to be able to pull off that upset? And then you guys almost beat De La Salle the year before, the year after.
Yeah, so...
What was that kind of like?
Yeah, you know, Dublin had a great program. It's funny is when brackets come out, when you think about the NCAA tournament, where do you see the most upsets? It's the 5-12 matchup.
Yep.
You know, and this was before the open days and this and that. And so, anyways, it was the 5-12 matchup, and we were the 12th seed. We're like, hey, we got to go in there, go knock them off. I think the crazy situation was, and Dublin was loaded. They had Timmy Falls, he was a D1, you know, recruit, played at Montana, helped take them to the NCAA tournament and stuff. But we had guys that just believed. And the funny thing about that team that upset the Dublin team, as far as like the eye test, that team probably didn't, you know, no one would have picked that upset. But the kids worked hard. They bought into the system. They shot the ball really well. And what people don't realize, we were way up in that game. We were up double digits in the fourth quarter, but there was a couple of interesting calls. And one of my star players was now on the bench because of foul trouble, and the game really shifted, but held on and won the games. What was really crazy, after we won the game, we were so excited because now we're going to go play Heritage in the second round.
Oh, that's right.
But the same as Heritage was the 4 seed. But they get upset by the 13 seed. And what happened was Castro Valley upset them, and Castro Valley had a ton of transfers. And so their record was really bad early in the season. Then all the transfers get in, are all eligible, and they were studs.
When free agency hits.
Yeah.
And it was so crazy. So here we are, the 12th seed, and we're playing at home in the second round of the playoffs. And we lost a tough battle with them by 6. And they went on to state and won a game at state playoffs, even, you know, as a low seed. And
we'll put air quotes around the
I mean, you guys know how I feel about the seeding in the NCS and all that stuff.
We haven't heard much on that.
But yeah, one of the funnest ones was the De La Salle game, where we had a 3 Lily rim in and out of the buzzer. You know, like, they were up on us big, and the press just took over. They couldn't solve the press. And we made a huge run on them. And that's when Alaco was still coaching, you know.
Oh, yeah.
And we made this huge run on them. If the game was 2 minutes longer, we would have won the game. I mean, it's just the time ran out on us, you know. Yeah, so it was a hell of a game at De La Salle. Huge crowd. We had a huge visiting crowd come with us that game, and just, you know, almost beat them at home.
That's so interesting because, like, you think of De La Salle as like the pristine, perfect program that knows how to solve everything, but to hear that you guys like had them on the ropes with your press, that's just amazing.
Yeah, they were on the ropes. It was a fun game.
It's interesting. The part I want to get back to the transfer part, because this all happened in the 2010s, right?
Yeah.
Before transfers were really as rampant as it is now. I'm kind of curious, as someone who's coached through the decades, through the last 2 decades, and not the age you mean that, but through the last 2 decades.
I feel it though now. Yeah.
You know, when I get up in the morning, back hurts a little bit more. But as someone who's kind of done this for the last 20, 25 years, so to say.
Yeah.
Your thoughts? I'm not even trying to say
I know.
But your thoughts are like, transfers have really become a thing, right? You mentioned Jamal Cersei earlier.
Yeah.
Your thoughts on where the sport is, because I have my views on transfers. I'm not the biggest fan of it, especially at the high school level.
Yeah.
I think it takes away from that local hometown kind of vibe. I understand it for reasons, you know, one thing, people moving. I get that, right? Yeah. but we've seen it more. But no, but the air court's interesting because we've seen it more now for the quote unquote moves compared to going to a better program, so to say.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on just kind of where the sport is, where high school sports and let alone basketball is now?
Obviously, again, I've been coached since '99, 2000 season.
Right.
So, hell of a long time. I've seen a lot.
Right.
Well, and it's so crazy you start off where college transfers were so restrictive, and now anything goes in college. I mean, literally. And NCS is trying to tighten up the reins on things. Yeah, when I first got there, it was very rare to see transfers when I started coaching at Liberty, right? You're 18 years, you've seen kind of everything. I've always been a loyalty guy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, why have I been here? The loyalty. You know, I've had opportunities to go other places, but like I built this. I want to be here. You know, and it is a weird dynamic now to see all the player movement. We've lost players at this program. We've gained players. We've lost multiple this off season, and we've gained some too. So it's hard to develop a consistent culture. I think with so much player movement. I get why kids are looking, and their families looking for their kids' best situation.
Right.
Like I said, some's hurt us, and some's benefited us. But yeah, it's just it's really becoming a different game now. You know, I kind of consider myself an X's and O's guy. You know, and what happens a lot of times, especially in AAU, you see guys bouncing around so many different teams. Well, all their offensive defensive sets are just so basic. And I've always kind of preached myself, or being an X and O's guys, I've always tried to do things that are going to get the kids ready for the next level. You know, some people just want to do I'm going to play man-to-man, I'm going to go dribble drive. Well, how many dribble drive teams are there in college basketball? There's not many. And so are we playing just to win now? Or are we doing whatever we can to develop kids to be successful at the next level as well? And just the whole game has had a dramatic shift, you know. I don't know if it's better or worse, to be honest. You know, it's just different.
Yeah. So with that said, how have you have you had to change your coaching style to try to build a foundation? Because with all the changes through the years, you've really built a program that seems to have a strong foundation. How have you kind of adjusted yourself or your philosophy, your program philosophy and stuff like that?
Yeah, I mean, so last year we were fairly young in the backcourt. I started a freshman and a sophomore for most of the year. And we did pull back on the amount of X's and O's we ran, offensive sets. We were probably more dynamic defensively than we were offensively. Especially being one of the last teams, it feels like that even press anymore. You know, when I got to the Bear, like everyone pressed. Right. And now it's like few and far between. We just play straight half-court man and this and that. And there's a few of us out there. And so we throw a lot at teams. But, again, with player movement, I don't run as many XOs that I used to. You know.
Just trying to keep it simple, so to say.
For me, anyways. Right. You know, it's probably more dynamic than a lot of other teams in the area. But, yeah, like I would like to run more stuff than we have in the last few years.
You know, you guys have been on a tear in B-Val the recent years. Just what's that kind of been like as, you know, you view this as kind of like the end of your time, this period of your coaching career.
Yeah.
So what's that kind of been like, you just running through B-Val year, and you guys haven't lost, knock on wood, you guys haven't lost a league game since I was junior, I think?
It's been since, well, we haven't lost a game in 3 years in the league.
Yeah.
So, I think it's probably year 3 for me here. I didn't see a light at the end of the tunnel. It was like this school's never going to get over the hump, you know. And I was, after year 3, I was very close to stepping down. And it's really my wife talked me off the ledge, you know. Even to this day, she's probably having the hardest time out of anyone that, you know, me stepping down as the basketball coach. You know, I think she still really wants me to be, you know, to still do this. And it was like, man, I was literally, I knew I was going to coach as hard as I could, but the chance of us ever winning a BVL title was just, I didn't know if that could ever really happen. You know, now to win 4 out of the last 6, you know, I think we're going to have a great chance again winning it again this year. I'll be honest with you. I wasn't quite sure this was ever going to happen, and that's hard for me to say how competitive I am.
We're talking about
yes. Yeah. When I was in year 3, it was like, man, I don't know if we can turn this around. All the talent was going to other schools, and it was very hard to convince kids that lived in your boundaries to stay and just play at their home school.
What was that first league title kind of like? Because you mentioned, we really didn't think this was going to happen.
Well, and the thing was, we weren't picked. Harris was picked to win that title. Ezra was their star guard. They're coming off a section championship, and when we beat Heritage at Heritage, it was just huge. So we go 5-0 the first run through league. Now we go to second run through league, and Ezra actually gets hurt, and he sprained his ankle against, I can't remember who they were playing. And the second time we played him, we just destroyed them. And to finish off that league title 5-0, or going that season going 10-0 in league was amazing.
I was going to ask.
Nice.
I have it. I know.
Very professional.
Oh, no. You mentioned, you kind of talked about how you didn't know it was going to be like this. This is like 2011 maybe-ish, your third year. When did it go from we don't know this is going to happen to, oh my goodness, it's happening, to now it's almost like a standard here? Because it's about the last 3 years undefeated in the league.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing too was the league was just so loaded back in the day. We had really, really good teams.
You had 5 teams that could go to the playoffs every year.
Oh yeah, we were having 4 and 5 teams make playoffs every year. I think once we won that first title, man, people started really looking at Liberty, and some of the events we were starting to get into and all that, and kind of the places that we were going. We were starting to go to Palm Springs and do all these cool trips, and we had the cool uniforms and all that kind of stuff, and kids see those things. But we had a group of kids come in that were seniors last year. I'm sorry, graduated in 2023. We had a group of seniors come in that I had multiple guys were 3-year varsity starters, and once they came in, it really just changed things. We finally had like the top talent. Like it was hard to ever get the top talent here, and we finally had the top talent at Liberty. And you look at 2 of my best players, my back-to-back MVPs was a kid from Edna Hill and another one from Bristow, right? And then you got even Gavin last year from Edna Hill, Kairos, my first year went at Edna Hill. We have 3 Edna Hill MVPs over the last 6 years, and Edna Hill's not thought of as a very good basketball program.
Yeah.
Right.
So I felt like that we've got kids, help develop these kids, and but it's been nice seeing some of these top kids that live here, stay here.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that because you mentioned the Edna Hill kids. In the age of transfers, to see the homegrown talent, so to say, really stay home and be able to make it. What does that say to you?
No, it's great to see. It's nice to see that our program's come that far, to where we couldn't get before I got here. They didn't have anyone, to now the top kids. A lot of times they really want to be here.
It's you've had a stellar coaching career, not repertoire, but what's the resume. Thank you. But last year was your deepest run in NCS playoffs. What was that kind of like? Did you kind of expect that going into it? I remember talking at the beginning of the season. You were like, I don't know where this team's going to go.
Yeah, I'll be honest. Not this past summer, but that summer before, the summer of 2023 was probably the worst summer we had in 10 years. As far as I think we ended up being 8-8 in summertime. We go to big time tournaments. We don't really play all the summer leagues. We do big tournaments, and it was a struggle. In fact, we were 4-8 at one point, and we went 4-0 in our last. No, we went 5-0 in our last tournament. But it was a struggle, and we had just lost all these 3-year seniors. We were very young. We didn't know what kind of. It felt like we were starting all over, and we were in dire straits. Our point guard had torn his ACL the year before during league, and man, we just had no idea. And to pull that run with that group of kids, we had some fresh faces too. We started a freshman at point guard for a lot of the year. It was a big shock. I honestly picked Pitt to win. I told everyone, I was pretty honest. I picked Pitt to win the league last year. Mm-hmm. They went D1 Final Four the year before. We had beat them by 25 points each game. They had everyone coming back. Right. It wasn't like they had a couple guys. They had their whole roster. Yeah. They had one senior before, and their top 3 guys who are 3-year players were all going to be seniors. These are all league guys. And, the first time we played them in the league, we're down 17. We're 17 last year, and we come back and win the game by double figures. Mm-hmm. And we were this young, scrappy group. And
the freshman hit the go-ahead 3.
Yes. Yeah. And yes, that third quarter run we had and into the fourth quarter was just amazing. And not only that, we had a big crowd there.
Pitt had a big crowd.
Cal High Sports was there. Pitt had a huge crowd there. So the playing atmosphere is the Chick-fil-A game of the week. And, dude, we win that game, and I felt that really kind of propelled us. Second time we played them at Pitt, and I felt like we just handled the game start to finish. And in a playoff game, to play the team I had picked to win league in the first round of playoffs, as both 20-win plus teams, not only was I shocked, but, then they bring Jamar up, had been one of our guys for the first 2 years to go against us. Man, I was so proud to see that our guys not only played, we just kind of dominated that game from start to finish. Probably one of my proudest moments was my son that game. Mm-hmm. So he came off the bench, hit a couple quick threes, ended up with 8 points or whatever, but played really, really well, kind of steadying that second group. Man, it was awesome. I felt like we could play with anybody. That's just kind of based on the schedule we had played. Early in the season, we had played a team out of Utah that was, if we would have played them 10 times, we'd be lucky to win 2 or 3 games. And same thing, our freshman hit a 3-pointer at the buzzer to beat them by a 1 on a broken play. It wasn't what I called it all. And broken play 3. But then if you remember in the showcase, though, last year up at Sheldon, that Simply Basketball Showcase, we beat Jesuit in OT, and that's the game when Andrew Vixen, fouled out. And we played the whole overtime with a freshman and 2 sophomores on the court.
I think it says a lot when you lose, especially, you mentioned the loss in the Jesuit win, when Andrew fouling out, and the young guys coming up. You mentioned Pittsburgh, the young guys, your son coming up, the young guys coming up at time and time again. I think it says a lot about how you've built this program. I've got to ask you, what was it like being Pitt 3 times? Those are 3 absolute classics from.
Oh yeah.
We talked about it after East. He would call him. He goes, "You'll never guess what happened."
Those are games like you tune in at midnight on ESPN on the hardwood class.
This is it was a Pac-12 after-dark games pretty much.
I think. We kind of saw it the first game. It literally. Pitt talks a lot of smack. They have a lot of bravado. You know what I'm saying? And I love some of the guys.
We didn't see them once coming with the boombox during the playoffs.
Yeah. But when you were up 17 and lose by double digits, their heads went straight down. Right. The way they walked out of the locker room and the way they went back in the locker room was a 180. Yeah. And then having that Chick-fil-A ceremony in the old gym kind of after the game, you just saw their demeanor was just squashed. Right. After we had beat them by 25 the both times the year before. And that senior group, they had a great run, that senior group at Pitt. But that 4 years, they never beat Liberty in all those games, So it was interesting. They tried to throw everything in there for the playoffs, and it was actually our best performance of the year against them. So.
Yeah, I remember those games very vividly. I ranked those one of the best things I covered of last year.
It was fun.
We were both at that playoff game.
And the crowd sizes were just.
That was awesome.
The first game walking into that gym, I know because you guys were coming off a rough spot. You guys had barely beat. No, not barely.
We had just lost to Benicia too, and we had an amazing game the year before against Benicia. Benicia was really loaded, and we beat them by 26 at home. Like, it was probably our best game of the year. And so we knew that for playoff seeding that game was going to be big, and we were up 10 in the second half, and just we literally could not hit a shot, you know. And they came back and beat us, and we weren't in a great spot at that time.
Yeah, I remember it was the Freedom game where you thought you underperformed, then there was the Deer Valley game, which we won't get into.
I thought I think we really just played down to our competition, you know.
But I want to ask, that was kind of like a theme of the team last year, because like you guys played down to these teams that you guys would stomp, but then you guys hung in there for 12 rounds against Dublin.
Yeah.
And went at it with Berkeley in the second round. So what was that kind of like to see that?
I think the biggest thing was we were a young team. So with being a young team, you're kind of immature, or you think you're better than what you are. So, you know, sometimes you walk in the gym when you're young and not really mature yet, thinking, well, the game is just going to be won. We're just going to go out there and dominate because of who we are. It doesn't work that way, because I also know, for being in the league so long, that for some of these teams, if they could just win one game all year, it would be us. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? You could win a one-game league, but if you beat Liberty, like that was it. And that's kind of where we're at right now, where everyone's going to throw haymakers at us. So if you show up the game not ready to play, we can get ourselves in battles that we don't need to be in.
What's it like having that target on your back now? Because, I mean, especially when you take a look at the program as a whole since you've been here.
It's definitely
the 2 wins to 9 wins to now having a target on your back, where if teams can get the one win, if they only win one game and it's against you guys, talk about just that kind of growth and what it's like having that, especially now going to the season.
Yeah, I remember my first year, like Pitt was really loaded my first year here. De La Salle won league, but Pitt just had athletes.
Oh, yeah, De La Salle was Carndelet.
Yeah, De La Salle and Carndelet was there my first. We're Clayton Valley, Nation Valley, stuff like that. But there was times where I would, before the game, you see our team warming up, you would see Pitt or whoever warming up. I remember one time vividly we're at Pitt, and I'm looking at the two squads. I'm like, I got to coach so hard to keep this within 30 points. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm just hoping to keep within 30 points tonight. And just hoping to beat certain teams, like, would mean so much. And now, yeah, it's so different, right? Like, you're just constantly on your kids, like, how important every game means. It's so funny when you talk to people, like, around town or whatever. They think these non-league games are just, well, who cares about a non?
Right, no.
For playoff seedings, it means everything. And honestly, our preseason schedule means more for our playoff seedings than really our league schedule.
Yeah.
If you really want to look at schedules. And so, yeah, it's such a different mentality right now, to where, like, you do focus so much on this non-league schedule. And in league, like, you know, just getting ready to kind of peak for playoffs. That was definitely not the mindset when I first got here.
What was coaching your first playoff game like after having turned the program around? What was that like, you on the side? Were you nervous? Were you?
No, I mean, this is what you kind of just always dreamt about. I mean, like I said, I'm always ready for competition and want to play the best. So we were excited, you know. That first year, that 11-12 team that won over 20 games, you know, it was something that we built up for a long time. But remember, again, that league was so stacked. That year, Deer Valley was the number one. This is, again, before Open. Deer Valley was the 1 seed in the whole playoffs. Freedom was the 4. We were the 5. And that year in league, you know, Deer Valley won it. They went 9-1. Freedom went 8-2. We went 7-3. Even Heritage went 5-5, and they were the 8 seed. So think about it. Like, our 4th place team was the 8 seed in the whole entire playoffs. So that'd be like a 2 seed nowadays in D1. And that's how loaded our league was. The battles we had, like with Deer Valley that year, they beat us. Same thing. It was a Cal High Sports game of the week. We did back then. It was a chicken winging contest at Wingstop or whatever.
Oh, that's right.
This is when Marcus Lee was on the team and all that kind of stuff. And you know, we beat them at Deer Valley on senior night, and they beat us here in overtime when we played at home. And the league was just so stacked. And so I thought that our league schedule was so brutal that it made playoffs like, you know, it was almost like another big league game.
Right.
You know, it wasn't like, oh my gosh, this is the playoff. Well, we just have played Marcus Lee in Deer Valley, you know. So we were ready.
It was like the SEC.
Can we get back to the wing eating contest? That was a thing here?
Dude, Brentwood lore was something. We had the wing eating contest. We had the Corn Fest for a while.
Yeah, but that was a Cali Sports thing. Cali Sports thing. They always do this. They have the game of the week, and on the Wednesday before the Friday game, they would meet up at Wingstop, the two teams, and wing eating contest.
What?
Yes.
Tony, Brentwood lore is interesting.
I came up in the wrong era in high school sports in this state.
I mean, last year we got to do the Chick-fil-A game,
Yeah.
and then we got to be in the crumble cookie game.
Like, oh yeah, because you had all the snacks.
Yeah.
I was starving at Heritage. You got all the snacks.
That's why you got to pick the better team.
Apparently, man. I'm curious. As we kind of wind down, what's been your favorite memory in the 25 years you've been here? What's been your favorite memory you kind of look back on, or is it yet to come?
Well, I mean, I think you'd always say you hope it's yet to come. Yeah,
Right.
But we just don't know. You know, like I said, I came into last year not knowing what kind of team we'd have. Surprised the hell out of me. You know, to say the least. I think the biggest memory is just being able to do this with your family, right? Mm-hmm. So, like I said, I took over this program. My son was 1. My daughter hadn't been born yet. And to have your family kind of on this whole journey with you, as my wife being the trainer and stuff, like I said, this is really hard on her as well, like me stepping away. But being able to coach your own kid and see the success that our team had and get to be a part of that. My son got to play a part of 3 varsity teams. He never lost. He can look back on his varsity career thinking, no, I was at Liberty High School. We won every championship, and he never lost a varsity game in high school as far as league goes. So think about that. That's pretty special. So, I mean, there's so many big wins. Like I look at that game against Jesuit last year, the team we beat the Utah team and winning different league championships or whatever. But I think the process of like winning 3 straight, but be able to do that with your son as well. You know, your wife right there and stuff like that has been pretty amazing. The only sad part is, as Josh graduates, my daughter's now a freshman and on the varsity dance team. So if it was 1 year sooner, she could be on the varsity dance team as those playing. But you know, it's.
If I may ask, you mentioned this has been hard on your wife. You mentioned it throughout this pod.
Yeah.
If I may ask, what has conversations been like, and like what was the initial conversation when you told her you wanted to step down?
I mean, I to be honest, like I have a lot of hobbies. Like I think with a lot of coaches, they're just like that's all they do, right? It's just basketball. And I've had these conversations, you know. I'm still at an age where I'm young enough where I can go out and do things. I'm really into outdoors. Like I'm into backpacking and camping. Okay. I just really I just went on a week-long camping trip and stuff like that. You know, I like to go out to remote places. I have a Jeep. I like the 4x4 and all these things. Okay. And there's a lot of things in life that I still really want to do. My wife knows that, you know. And I think her biggest worry is what happens next year when I'm not part of the program. And I don't know how that's going to be, like to watch Liberty play and I'm not coaching. Like that's honestly going to be very weird for me. Remember, I'm not from Brentwood, so I didn't grow up. I never watched Liberty before. I watched Liberty play, I think, 2 times, and because I was scouting, in my whole career coming up to this. So like I haven't really seen Liberty play without me, so I don't know how that's going to feel. And as we talk about like the coaching changes all the time, I know if I ever get the itch again, luckily enough with the resume that we've been successful the last so many years that I know that I'll have opportunities to jump back into coaching if I really want to. But I don't really have a plan right now. Like I'm going to do this year as AD. I'm going to coach, and I do have some opportunities for next year. But I just want to see kind of what happens and where life takes me, and I might miss it this summer, right? And maybe I won't. I don't know. I just don't know at this point.
You're aware of your resume. You have a chance to do the funniest thing ever if you decide to come back to coach, right?
You never know. Like you never.
That
know.
Would be. Can you? I just say because I think about when Favre left the Packers, and then went to Minnesota. Just saying, if you know, Heritage is only 10-minute drive from here, man.
You know, and Casey, I consider him one of my good friends. We play basketball almost every Sunday together. I'll be honest with you. It'd be very hard to ever put on those colors.
I believe it.
But like I said,
it'd be weird seeing you in those colors for what it's worth.
Yeah, and here's another thing too. Is like I said, my youngest is a freshman in high school right now at Liberty.
Yeah, right. Okay.
Yeah, and she's on the varsity dance team and all that kind of stuff. So, I mean, I don't see myself over the next, while she's in high school, going somewhere with my wife being a trainer here and stuff like that. So, I like I said, I really don't have any definite plans. I just know what this year I'm going to be the athletic director, and this year I'm, going to be a co-head coach. And I really don't know what's going to take place next year. I still see myself as the athletic director, but you just don't know where life takes you. So it's kind of the first time in my life where I feel like I am kind of a free agent, but I have trips that I want to do. I have things I want to do in my life that coaching, and again, I think the hard thing is some people think that you coach from November through February, right?
Nope.
And it is a 12-month grind. Especially when people think as a basketball coach, they just see you out there with a whistle or you're out there coaching in a game. That's such a small part of the job. The administration of a whole basketball program is huge.
To be honest, game day is the smallest part of the job. When you look at
it really is. It really is. It's some of your easiest days. And and I coach most of summer. So people are like, oh, teachers have summers off. Well, not when you're a coach. You know what I'm saying? And I don't get paid for summer basketball. So I just want to see what it's like to have some of this time to do some of the things that I want to do. And we'll just go from there.
What's the one thing you're looking forward to the most post-coaching? You mentioned lots of people outdoors and...
Yeah, man. There's just so many more camping trips and backpacking trips that I want to do. My dream, and it probably will never happen, is to have the time. I would love to do the PCT, for instance.
Okay.
But yeah, there's just so many things I want to see and do still. So, I love, people that know me, they know I love coaching. I think basketball is the ultimate chess match. And you have to think so fast on the fly, right? And you see how much I call offense and defense, how much I switch things up constantly. And I'll miss that. I'm going to miss that chess match versus the other coach, So we'll just, like I said, we'll just see how life,
Is there? Because I remember when I left Logan, and granted for different reasons, I had to kind of talk myself into okay, it's okay to leave, and I need to do this. What have been for you personally? What have been the internal conversation with yourself been as far as mentally prepping yourself for it? Because knowing you as I know he's known you longer, but knowing you in the year and a half plus I've been here, I know you love doing this. You love coach. This is what you do. This is in ways who you are.
And it's kind of weird. I mean,
what's it like?
My whole adult life, I've had everyone call me coach. So it's kind of weird. Where are people going to call me someday? I've been known every time adults around. I'm coach.
Oh man, that first day at Starbucks post coaching is gonna be weird for you.
It's gonna be. That's what I'm saying. One of my first memories, my first year at Humboldt, I'm a 22-year-old assistant. Mm-hmm. And we had a 6'9" guy on our team that had come back from the military. He was 27 on the team. And to have this 6'9" guy who's older than me calling me coach was that was kind of the first, this weird moment for me, right? And now it's just it's my name's not John or Mr. Heinz. Even you know what I'm saying? Even most of my students will all call me, everyone just calls me coach.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And so that's kind of been my identity for so long. Mm-hmm. But again, there's a lot of things I have kind of missed out with family and different, coaching is a full-time obsession, right. If you want to be good, I don't know if many people take losses as hard as I do, I obsess over those things, and
you have not seen this one after a playoff loss.
Yeah, it's rough, so.
JV loss.
What about Amador?
Hey. So, like I said, it's going to be a huge change for me. I haven't really had an adult moment in my life. Well, and for my kids, my oldest just turned 25 and she's she was 1 year old when I first started coaching at Humboldt, I've also raised 3 kids during this whole process.
And they know you with the dad also coaching.
Of course, my daughter being 1 when I first started, my kids don't know life at all without dad being coach.
Yeah.
And what that encompasses, right? And then with my wife, again, being the trainer, I mean, football season is just like basketball. Like, you know, she's traveling with the team, right? All the games, and my kids only know one thing. And so it's going to be a big change for all of us. But like I said, it could be a 1-year hiatus. It could be a lifetime hiatus. I don't know.
What have your kids' reactions been? Can you talk about, you know, your daughter, you have 3, right?
I have 3 kids.
25, Josh, and then freshman.
Yeah, and Hannah's a freshman. So I think, well, Kayla now, she lives in Tennessee. So my oldest, she, it was kind of an awesome story with her. She was, the first time ever LMC had 2 girls make it through the fire department or through the fire academy.
Really?
She's one of them.
That's awesome.
First time ever in the history of the school. And so she made it through. And she's been a firefighter out in Tennessee, and actually she's got an awesome opportunity. She lives right outside Knoxville.
Okay.
And she met somebody, and anyways, for University of Tennessee's obviously got a huge teaching hospital or whatever, and they have the only like level 1 trauma center for that whole. And that trauma center just hired her on over there. So yeah,
that's awesome.
So it's been cool. So for me, it's not as big of a deal as she's so far away now. I think with Josh, I mean, now he's out of high school, so it's not, you know, I mean, he's kind of off doing his own thing now and stuff, and he's got his own goals and everything, and Hannah's a dancer, so, you know, Dad might be more of an embarrassment out there going crazy on the sidelines than anything else, so, you know, maybe for her. So, I mean, I think about, it's probably, again, going to be the hardest on my wife, you know, like, when we started dating, I was, you know, coaching. So she's only known me as coach as well, too. Right. She's never known a second of our relationship where I'm not coaching. So it might be a bad thing. I might have too much time on my hands, you know. So no, but I'll never have that much time on my hands being AD though. AD is a 24/7.
You still stay on AD.
Yeah, it's a 24/7 job. And like I said, being AD and head basketball coach is almost an impossible task to do both to the best of your ability.
Is it something, I know you and I have talked about the struggles between being AD and coaching and what that's been like for you and all that kind of stuff. Is it something where, would you be able to pitch to the district about making AD the full-time job? Like other districts where both where, you know.
Oh yeah, we've been talking about it. I don't know if honestly, I don't know if it'll ever happen. If you look at, we have 2,900 students here. Pretty much all schools in Northern California with over 2,000 students have full-time ADs, and they'll have support staff, assistant AD or secretary or whatever. Right. The hard thing is we have no support staff. So being an AD of our school this size, teaching, coaching, without secretarial help, it's a daunting task. And I do AD because, again, I want a successful program for all the kids. Right. You know, I mean, that's important to me. So, you know, like I said, I'm going to work hard this year and just kind of see what happens from there.
What do you take from your coaching career that you can translate? I mean, you've been AD role now
This is my second year as AD, yeah.
What do you take from your coaching career, especially as you step away from coaching, going into AD? What do you kind of carry from that? If there is anything.
I think the biggest thing is that I carry is the fact that I've been an athlete for pretty much all my life. I was a multi-sport athlete. I played everything growing up. Right. My parents both worked, and I was an only child. So in the summertime meant like I grew up in Concord, and so they back in the days had these City of Concord like sports camps. So every week was a different sport. So I played every sport. I mean, even in high school, I was in junior PGA golf leagues. I mean, I played everything.
That's awesome, actually.
You know, like I was a 3-sport athlete in high school, and I played 2 sports at college. So I come with a perspective where I've played all these different sports. I have a passion for other sports besides just basketball. I've actually coached. It's funny, my very first teaching job, they're like, hey, if you want this job, you will be the varsity boys basketball coach, and you will be the varsity girls softball coach. I'm like, well, I don't know the first hell. Just because I played baseball doesn't mean. And I had this really good team. Like the pitcher, I'm like, I don't know how to teach you how to like different stuff in pitching and this and that. And so, you know, I've coached both boys and girls sports. I've had a long, not only athletic career, but coaching career. And I think administering or, over a basketball program for that long, you know what kind of works and what doesn't work.
Right.
And so you're just kind of trying to bring that to all the programs.
This is my last question. I got to ask. With you being the competitive person you are, does not having an NCS title kind of eat at you?
And that's I mean, obviously, the hardest thing about leaving this job is some people might say I'm a pessimistic person in a way because, like, I've done a lot of things that I'm really proud of, but I still eats at me some of the losses or some of the things that, obviously not win that game at Dublin last year in the playoffs. It's always the what ifs in my mind. What would have happened? I really felt that we would beat Doherty Valley in the championship. So yeah, there's so many. I think that's as a competitive person, you always have the what ifs, and yeah, it's tough to walk away when you didn't accomplish every goal that you set out. But I don't think there's ever a right time. I think the thing is, as a coach, I think you always want to leave on your own terms.
Right. Yeah.
So I feel like I'm leaving on my own terms, and I'm leaving the school in a situation where it's much better than I got here. So, at least I accomplished that.